The rain in Port Meridian never fell politely. It slammed against the glass of the quiet bean like it had a personal grudge, turning the harbor lights into smeared gold. Inside, the cafe smelled of burnt sugar, old paperbacks, and the kind of cheap vanilla syrup that stuck to the back of your throat. Solace wiped the counter for the third time in 10 minutes, not because it was dirty, but because her hands needed something to do when her mind started wandering toward the past. She was 24. Ordinary. That was the word she had carved into her bones until it stopped feeling like a lie. Brown hair always twisted into a messy bun. Soft gray eyes that never held anyone's gaze longer than necessary. A faded green apron with a coffee stain that refused to die. Customers called her the quiet one. Regulars tipped her extra because she remembered their orders without writing them down. Nobody asked where she came from. Nobody asked why a girl with pianist hands worked a register for $12 an hour. That was the point. The bell above the door chimed at 7:42 p.m., right as Maya was about to flip the closed sign. She almost didn't look up. Then she did, and the world, for one reckless second, forgot how to breathe. The woman who walked in was soaked through, dark curls plastered to her cheeks, a camera bag slung across her body like a second heart. She shook rain from her jacket and laughed under her breath, a low, warm sound that made the fluorescent lights feel less cruel. When her eyes found Maya, something electric and uninvited passed between them. "Coffee," the stranger said, voice rough from weather. "The darkest thing you have. And if you have anything that tastes like hope, throw that in too." Maya's mouth twitched. "We have hope. It's overpriced and comes with oat milk." "Sold." The woman stepped closer, reading the name tag. "Maya. I'm Nora Hale. Just moved into the blue house on Cedar. The one with the broken porch light and the cat that hates everyone. That's Mrs. Delgado's old place. It's mine now. And Mrs. Delgado's ghost apparently still rearranges my spices." Nora's smile was crooked, dangerous in its honesty. "You always this quiet, or am I catching you on a bad night?" "I'm always this quiet." Maya poured the coffee, black as secrets, and slid it across the counter. Their fingers brushed. Maya pulled back first. "That'll be $3.50. Nora paid with a 10 and told her to keep the change. "Consider it a bribe. I'm new. I need a friend who knows which bakery sells bread that doesn't taste like cardboard." Maya almost said no. The script in her head was clear. Be kind, be distant, never let anyone close enough to ask real questions. But Nora's eyes, hazel, flecked with green, the kind that looked like they had already survived something, made the script feel flimsy. "There's a place 2 streets over," Maya heard herself say. "Opens at 6. Ask for the rosemary sourdough. Tell them the girl from the quiet bean sent you." Nora's grin widened. "See? Progress. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. Same bribe. Maybe you'll even look me in the eye for a full 5 seconds." She left with the coffee and the rain and the faint scent of cedar and darkroom chemicals. Maya stood frozen behind the counter until the clock hit 8. Then she locked the door, turned off the lights, and pressed her forehead to the cool glass. In the reflection, for a heartbeat, she saw the other girl. The one with red carpet hair and a last name that opened every door and closed every escape route. The girl who had died so Maya Solace could live. Isabella Moreau was supposed to stay buried. But Nora Hale had walked in smelling like rain and possibility, and something inside Maya's carefully constructed ordinary life cracked, just a hairline fracture, invisible to anyone who wasn't listening for the sound of glass beginning to break. She wiped the counter one last time, slower now, and whispered to the empty cafe the only truth she could afford. "Don't." The rain answered by hitting harder. Nora came back the next evening, and the evening after that. By the end of the week, Maya's pulse had learned a new rhythm, the soft chime of the door at 7:40, the scrape of Nora's boots, the way she always ordered the same black coffee and then pretended she needed something else just to stay longer. On Friday, Nora brought a paper bag from the bakery Maya had recommended. 2 slices of rosemary sourdough, still warm. She tore one in half and held it out across the counter like a peace offering or a dare. "Eat with me," Nora said. "I refuse to become the lonely woman who talks to her camera equipment." Maya hesitated, then took the bread. It tasted like salt and herbs and something dangerously close to belonging. They ate standing up, shoulders almost touching, while the last customer of the night finished a latte and left them alone with the rain. So, Nora said, licking a crumb from her thumb. What's your story, Maya Solace? Everyone in this town has one. The fisherman who used to be a lawyer. The florist who once dated a rock star. What's yours? Maya's throat tightened. I make coffee. I live above the laundromat. I like rainy nights and books with sad endings. That's the whole story. Liar. Nora said it gently, almost affectionately. Your hands. They're not barista hands. They're musician hands. Or maybe surgeon hands. Something careful. Something expensive. Maya shoved her hands into her apron pockets. You're a photographer. You notice too much. I notice what matters. Nora's voice dropped. And right now you matter. Weirdly. Quickly. Like my brain decided overnight that the quiet girl with the gray eyes is the most interesting person in Port Meridian. Heat climbed Maya's neck. She busied herself wiping an already clean espresso machine. You don't know me. I want to. Nora leaned her elbows on the counter, closing the distance. Dinner. Tomorrow. My place. I'll cook something that might accidentally be edible. You bring wine or your worst secrets. Dealer's choice. Maya should have said no. Every rule she had written in blood said no. Instead, she heard herself answer, I'll bring wine. Nora's smile could have powered the harbor lights. 7. Don't be late. Mrs. Delgado's ghost gets cranky if company arrives after 7:15. That night, Maya climbed the narrow stairs to her studio apartment above the laundromat and stood in front of the cracked mirror. She pulled the elastic from her hair and let the brown waves fall. For a second, she almost reached for the box under her bed, the one with the passport, the red silk dress, the single diamond earring that had once been worth more than this entire building. She didn't open it. She poured cheap wine into a mug and sat on the fire escape, watching the blue house on Cedar. A light was on in the upstairs window. Nora's silhouette moved behind thin curtains, lifting a camera, laughing at something only she could see. Maya pressed her palm to her own chest, feeling the traitor heartbeat. You are ordinary, she told herself. Stay ordinary. Stay safe. Stay free. But Free had never felt this lonely. And ordinary had never tasted like rosemary bread shared with a woman who looked at her like she was already a photograph worth keeping. Maya almost turned around 3 times on the walk to Cedar Street. The bottle of wine in her hand, mid-range, nothing flashy, felt heavier than it should. She had changed clothes 4 times before settling on a soft black sweater and jeans that made her look like someone who owned exactly one nice outfit. Which, currently, she did. Nora opened the door barefoot, wearing an oversized flannel shirt and a grin that made Maya's knees forget their job. You came. I had a bet with the ghost. She said you'd ghost me. I said you were braver than you look. I'm not brave, Maya said, stepping inside. The house smelled of garlic, lemon, and wetwood. Boxes still lined the hallway. A black cat with one white paw watched from the staircase like a tiny judgmental landlord. That's Shadow, Nora said. He hates everyone except people who feed him tuna. Bribe him, and he might let you live. Dinner was pasta with too much pepper and a salad that actually tasted like someone had tried. They ate on the floor of the living room because the dining table was still buried under photography equipment. Nora talked with her hands about the magazine assignment that brought her to Port Meridian, about shooting storms and people who didn't know they were beautiful, about leaving New York because the city had started tasting like ash. Maya listened and offered small truths in return. Favorite books. The way the harbor looked at 5 a.m. The fact that she once wanted to be a pianist. She left out the concert halls, the private tutors, the last name that had once been printed in gold leaf on invitations. After the second glass of wine, Nora's knee brushed Maya's. Neither of them moved away. Can I photograph you? Nora asked quietly. Maya's blood went cold. No. The answer came too fast, too sharp. Nora blinked, then softened. Okay. Not tonight. Not ever if you don't want. The way the lamp light hits your cheekbone. It's criminal that the world doesn't get to see it. The world doesn't need to see me. I do. The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Maya set her glass down carefully. I should go. Stay, Nora said. Not a demand. A hope. Just a little longer. I'll play bad music and tell you embarrassing stories about my first gallery show. No cameras. No questions you don't want to answer. Maya stayed until midnight. They ended up on the couch, shoulders touching, shadow purring between them like a furry chaperone. When Maya finally stood to leave, Nora walked her to the door and, in the soft porch light that still flickered, kissed her cheek. Soft. Brief. Devastating. Tomorrow, Nora whispered. Same coffee. Same bribe. Maybe a longer look this time. Maya walked home through empty streets with her hand pressed to the place Nora's lips had been. In her apartment, she opened the box under the bed for the first time in 2 years. The diamond earring glittered like a threat. The red dress still smelled faintly of perfume that cost more than her rent. Isabella Moreau stared back from a single newspaper clipping. Heiress vanishes after scandal rocks Moreau empire. Maya closed the box hard enough to hurt her fingers. If Nora ever found out, she would leave. Or worse, she would stay for the wrong reasons. The world always stayed for the wrong reasons. Summer arrived in Port Meridian like a held breath finally released. Tourists filled the boardwalk. The quiet beans stayed open later. And Maya Solace discovered that falling in love felt a lot like drowning in warm water, terrifying, inevitable, and somehow exactly what her lungs had been waiting for. Nora became a habit she didn't want to break. Morning texts that said, "Wake up, beautiful stranger." Afternoon visits with iced coffee and stolen photographs of the sea. Evening walks where their hands found each other without asking permission. Maya learned the map of Nora's freckles. Nora learned that Maya hummed when she was nervous and went silent when she was scared. The first real kiss happened on a Thursday that smelled like salt and grilled corn. They had climbed the old lighthouse stairs after closing, the door left unlocked by a kind night watchman who owed Nora a favor. At the top, wind whipped Nora's curls into chaos. Maya reached up without thinking and tucked a strand behind her ear. Nora caught her wrist. Held it. Looked at her like the answer to a question she had been asking her whole life. "I'm going to kiss you," Nora said. "Unless you tell me not to." Maya didn't tell her not to. The kiss was soft at first, then hungry, then soft again, like they were learning a language that only existed between their mouths. Maya's back hit the cold stone of the lighthouse wall. Nora's hands framed her face as if she were something fragile and priceless. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing like they had run for miles. "I've wanted that since the night you sold me hope with oat milk," Nora whispered against her lips. Maya laughed, shaky and real. "I've wanted that since before I knew your name." Which is ridiculous. And dangerous. And I don't care. They stayed until the fog rolled in, kissing between sentences, between silences, between the moments when Maya almost said "I love you" and swallowed it whole. Walking home that night, fingers laced, Maya let herself imagine a future. A small one. Coffee and cameras and rainy nights and a cat named Shadow, who eventually decided she was worth liking. No red carpets. No boardrooms. No father whose voice could freeze oceans. Just this. Just Nora. Then her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. One message. "I know where you are, Isabella. Come home, or I will burn your little life down." Maya stopped walking so abruptly Nora nearly collided with her. "Hey, what is it?" Maya locked the screen, forced a smile that felt like broken glass. "Spam. Scam about car warranties for a car I don't own." Nora studied her face. "You're shaking. Cold." Maya squeezed her hand. "Let's go back to your place. I don't want to be alone tonight." It was the first full lie she had told Nora out loud. It would not be the last. Maya deleted the message. Then she blocked the number. Then she lay awake in Nora's bed until dawn, staring at the ceiling while Nora slept with one arm thrown across Maya's waist like an anchor she didn't deserve. The sender could only be one person. Julian Voss. Her father's chief of security. The man who had once taught her how to disappear into a crowd and how to never, ever trust a crowd. If Julian had found her, Then her father, Victor Moreau, was only one phone call away from tearing Port Meridian apart looking for his missing heir. Isabella Moreau had not simply run away. She had staged a disappearance after discovering that the Moreau pharmaceutical empire had buried clinical trial data that killed people. She had threatened to go public. Her father had threatened everything she loved in return. So she chose erasure. New name, new hair, new city. 2 years of silence. Now the silence was cracking. For 3 days Maya pretended nothing was wrong. She smiled at customers. She kissed Nora behind the espresso machine when no one was looking. She laughed at Shadow's refusal to share the couch. But at night she checked the street from her window. She varied her route home. She kept a packed bag under the bed next to the box of old life. Nora noticed. Of course she did. Photographers were paid to notice what people tried to hide. On the 4th evening after closing, Nora locked the Quiet Bean's door from the inside and turned to Maya with her arms crossed. Talk to me, she said. You've been somewhere else since the lighthouse. If this is moving too fast, tell me. If you're scared of something, tell me. If you're about to break my heart, at least give me a warning so I can start drinking early. Maya's eyes burned. I'm not going to break your heart on purpose. That's not the same as a promise. I can't give you promises. Maya's voice cracked. I can give you right now. Today. This coffee. This rain. Me, standing here, wanting you more than I've wanted anything in years. Is that enough? Nora stepped closer. For now. But Maya, whoever you're running from, you don't have to run alone. The kindness nearly undid her. Maya kissed her instead of answering, hard and desperate, tasting salt that might have been tears or the sea air or both. They stumbled into the back room where inventory shelves made poor witnesses. Clothes loosened. Breaths shortened. Maya let herself forget names and threats and fathers for 20 stolen minutes, while Nora whispered her ordinary name like it was the only one that had ever mattered. Afterward, Maya rested her forehead against Nora's. If I ever disappear, she whispered, don't look for me. Just know that leaving you would be the hardest thing I ever did. Nora's fingers tightened on her hips. Then don't disappear. Maya said nothing. The silence was its own kind of vow and its own kind of betrayal. He appeared on a Tuesday that should have been ordinary. Maya was restocking oat milk when she felt the weight of a stare that didn't belong to a tourist or a regular. She looked up. Across the street, under the awning of the closed bookstore, stood a man in a black coat too heavy for August. Tall. Still. Watching the cafe like it owed him money. Julian Voss had not changed. Same silver at the temples. Same posture that said he could end a problem without raising his voice. When their eyes met through the glass, he inclined his head, almost polite, and walked away. Maya's hands went numb. The carton of oat milk slipped and split open on the floor, white pooling around her shoes like spilled secrets. Maya, her coworker, Jen, called from the back. You okay? Fine, Maya lied. Just clumsy. She cleaned the mess with mechanical calm. At the end of her shift, she did not wait for Nora. She sent a text, not feeling well, rain check, and went home by alleys she had memorized for nights exactly like this. In her apartment, she packed the emergency bag properly, cash, the fake ID that had become real through use, a burner phone still in its plastic, the diamond earring she could sell if she had to cross a border. She was zipping the bag when someone knocked. 3 soft taps. Not Julian style. Julian didn't knock, he entered. Maya checked the peephole. Nora stood in the hallway holding a paper bag and looking worried enough to break something. Maya opened the door because she was weak and in love and apparently determined to ruin everything she had built. I brought soup, Nora said. And the worst rom-com ever made. And myself, in case you need a human hot water bottle. Maya let her in. Closed the door. Locked it. Chain. Deadbolt. Nora noticed the bag on the bed. Going somewhere? Maybe. Maya's voice was thin. I don't know yet. Nora set the soup down carefully. Is this about the man outside the cafe? Jen said you looked like you'd seen a ghost. I walked past on my way here. Tall guy, black coat, face like a closed vault. He was still there. Watching your building now. Ice flooded Maya's veins. You need to leave. Absolutely not. Nora, if you're in trouble, I'm already in it. I chose that the night I decided your gray eyes were my favorite subject. Talk to me. Please. Maya sat on the edge of the bed because her legs had given up. For a long moment, the only sound was the laundromat machines thumping below them like distant hearts. My name isn't Maya Solace, she said at last. Each word tasted like rust. It used to be Isabella Moreau. My father runs Moreau Pharmaceuticals. 2 years ago, I found proof that they covered up deaths in a trial. I threatened to expose him. He threatened to destroy anyone who helped me. So I destroyed myself first. New name. New city. Ordinary life. It was working until I got happy. Happy people get found. Nora didn't run. She didn't gasp or demand proof. She sat beside Maya, close enough that their thighs touched, and took her hand. Isabella, she said softly, testing the name. Maya. Whoever you are when you wake up tomorrow, I'm not leaving because your last name is expensive and your father is a monster. I'm leaving only if you tell me to. And even then I'll argue. Maya's vision blurred. He'll use you. Hurt you. You're a photographer, not a soldier. I'm a woman who loves you, Nora said simply. That makes me more dangerous than he expects. The word love landed between them like a match in dry grass. Maya turned, cupped Nora's face, and kissed her with every apology she couldn't speak. Outside, somewhere in the dark, Julian Voss waited. Inside, for one more night, Maya chose to stay. They didn't sleep. They planned. Nora's laptop glowed between them on the bed, while Shadow occupied Maya's lap like a living paperweight. Maya told her everything, the encrypted drive hidden in a storage unit 2 towns over, the journalist in Seattle who had once promised to publish if Maya ever delivered proof, the offshore accounts her father used to silence whistleblowers. Nora listened, asked sharp questions, and then did something Maya never expected. She opened a folder of her own work. Photographs. Not landscapes. Faces. A series she had shot 2 years earlier for an investigative magazine. Workers outside a Moreau plant in Ohio, families holding photos of relatives who had died after taking an experimental painkiller. Nora had been one of the photographers on the story that never fully ran, killed by legal pressure, she said, and a sudden loss of funding. I've been hunting your father longer than I've known your real name, Nora said quietly. I just didn't know the missing heiress was making my coffee. Maya stared at her. You knew about the trials. I knew pieces. You have the missing piece. Nora's eyes shone. We don't run, Maya. We finish it. He will come for you. Then we make sure the story is already public when he does. It was reckless. It was the opposite of every survival instinct Maya had sharpened for 2 years. It was also the first plan that didn't end with her alone in another city under another name. At 3 a.m., they drove Nora's beat-up Jeep to the storage unit. Maya's hands shook so hard she dropped the key twice. Inside, behind a stack of thrift store furniture she had never used, sat a metal box. Inside the box, a hard drive, a notebook of dates and names, and a letter she had written to her younger self the night she left. You are allowed to want a life, the letter said. Even if it costs everything. They copied the drive in a 24-hour print shop that smelled of toner and regret. Nora encrypted the files and sent them through 3 different secure channels to the journalist in Seattle and 2 backup outlets. Then, because Nora was Nora, she also scheduled a public social media post, blurred faces, hard facts, a caption that would detonate at noon the next day if they didn't cancel it. Insurance, Nora said. If something happens to us, the truth still walks. Driving back as dawn pinked the harbor, Maya watched Nora's profile and felt something rearrange inside her chest. Love, yes, but also partnership. The terrifying, beautiful knowledge that someone had looked at the worst of her history and chosen to stand in the blast radius anyway. When this is over, Maya said, I want a real first date. Not soup in a panic. Something ridiculous. Bowling. Or a fair. Or a terrible movie where we make out in the back row. Nora smiled without taking her eyes off the road. Deal. But I'm warning you, I am aggressively good at skee-ball. Maya laughed, and for a few miles the future felt almost possible. Then Julian's black sedan appeared in the rearview mirror, 2 cars back, matching their turns with professional patience. Nora's hands tightened on the wheel. Is that him? Yes. Hold on. Nora did not speed. She did not panic. She drove to the police station, parked under the brightest light, and walked inside holding Maya's hand like a dare. Julian idled across the street for 11 minutes. Then he drove away. Message received for now. Victor Moreau called at 9:17 a.m. the next morning. Maya's old phone, the one she kept charged but silent in a drawer, lit up with a number she had never saved and never forgotten. She answered on speaker because Nora refused to leave the room and Maya was done keeping secrets that could get them killed separately. Isabella. Her father's voice was velvet over steel. You look well in that little cafe. The brown hair is a choice. Not my favorite, but effective. Maya's stomach dropped. You've been watching. I've been waiting. There's a difference. Julian tells me you've made a friend. A photographer with a history of inconvenient curiosity. How charming. How temporary. Nora's jaw clenched. Maya squeezed her hand hard enough to hurt. I'm not coming home, Maya said. Home is not a request. It is a fact. You will return, you will issue a statement that you suffered a breakdown, and you will never speak of documents that do not exist. In exchange, your friend keeps her career, her house, and the use of her legs. Nora leaned toward the phone. Mr. Moreau, this is Nora Hale. If you threaten me again, I will publish every frame I have of your facilities, your security team, and the look on your daughter's face when she remembers what you did. Also, the files are already gone. Multiple outlets. Kill me and you only make the story louder. Silence stretched. Then Victor laughed soft, almost proud. She has teeth. I see why you like her. Very well. A new offer. Noon tomorrow. The Meridian Grand Hotel, penthouse suite. Come alone, Isabella, and we will discuss terms like civilized people. Bring the girl and I will assume you prefer war. The line went dead. Maya set the phone down as if it might explode. I have to go. Absolutely not. If I don't, he escalates. He has lawyers, money, men like Julian. He can make you vanish in ways that look accidental. Nora stood, pacing the small kitchen of the Blue House. Then we don't go alone. We go with leverage. The journalist in Seattle, Elena Cho, she texted. The files are real. She's running a preliminary piece tonight and a full investigation package within 48 hours if we give her an on-record interview. Your father is already losing. He just doesn't know the score yet. Maya pressed her palms to her eyes. If I walk into that hotel, he wins the narrative. The lost daughter returns. The scandal becomes a family matter. Quiet settlements. Buried truth. Then we change the narrative. Nora stopped in front of her, eyes bright with a plan that looked half genius and half suicide. You go. But not alone in the way he thinks. I'll be in the building. Camera. Live feed to Elena. The second he threatens you, the second he admits anything, it goes out. He wants a private conversation. We give him a public reckoning he can't spin. That's insane. That's love with a press pass. Nora cupped her face. I didn't fall for ordinary Maya so I could watch her be erased again. I fell for the woman who stole her own life back. Let's steal the ending too. Maya kissed her slow, fierce, tasting fear and coffee and the metallic edge of courage. If this goes wrong, it won't. And if it does, we go down together. I'm very stubborn about that. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Nora contacted Elena. Elena contacted 2 lawyers who specialized in whistleblower protection. Maya wrote a statement in case she didn't walk out of the penthouse. She left it on Nora's pillow next to a single diamond earring and a note that said, if I don't come back, sell this and start over somewhere with better light. I love you. I should have said it sooner. M/I. She almost didn't write the last part. Then she did, because some truths refused to stay buried any longer. The Meridian Grand smelled like money that had never done an honest day's work, white lilies, polished marble, and the faint ozone of air conditioning fighting the summer heat. Maya walked through the lobby in the red silk dress she had sworn she would never wear again. It fit like a memory of a different girl. Her hair was still brown. Her eyes were still gray. But for the first time in 2 years, she let her shoulders settle into the posture of someone who had once owned rooms like this. Julian met her at the private elevator. He did not smile. He's waiting. Alone, as requested. Your photographer is in the lobby cafe. Clever. Temporary. If anything happens to her, Maya said quietly, I will spend the rest of my life making sure your name is the first one burned. Julian's expression flickered, something almost like respect, and then the elevator doors closed. The penthouse was all glass and pale wood, and a view of the harbor that made Port Meridian look like a toy city. Victor Moreau stood with his back to her, hands in the pockets of a charcoal suit that cost more than Maya's entire apartment building. When he turned, she saw the same sharp cheekbones she carried, the same cold intelligence, and none of the warmth she had spent years pretending she didn't need. Isabella. He said the name like a possession reclaimed. You look like your mother when you're angry. She hated that too. I'm not here to discuss mother. No. You're here because you finally understand that running is a child's game. He gestured to a chair. Maya remained standing. The documents. You will recall them. You will sign a statement. You will come home for 6 months of recovery while the board handles the noise. After that, if you still want your little life, we can negotiate an allowance and a quiet existence somewhere I approve. And Nora, the photographer becomes a non-issue once you are no longer a story. People lose interest in ordinary girls very quickly. Maya smiled. It felt sharp. You still think I'm ordinary because I poured coffee. You never understood. Ordinary was the costume. The girl underneath is the one who copied every file, who learned your security schedules, who walked out of your house with enough evidence to end you. I didn't run because I was weak. I ran because I needed time to become someone you couldn't buy or break. Victor's eyes narrowed. Careful. No, Maya took a step closer. In her clutch, a small camera pin, Nora's idea, ridiculous and perfect, streamed every word to a secure server and to Elena Cho's laptop 3 states away. You buried trial data. People died. You paid families to stay quiet and ruined the ones who wouldn't. I have names, dates, internal memos with your signature. And as of this morning, so does the press. The color drained from Victor's face in stages. You're bluffing. Check your phone. Or better, check the news in about 20 minutes. As if summoned, Victor's phone buzzed. Then again. Then it began a relentless chorus of alerts. He looked at the screen. For the first time in Maya's memory, her father looked old. You little. Careful, Maya echoed. Everything you say is being recorded. Smile for the camera, Dad. The penthouse door opened. Nora stood there with a hotel security badge she had absolutely stolen and a camera raised like a weapon. Behind her, 2 actual security officers looked confused. Behind them, Julian's face had gone carefully blank, the face of a man recalculating which side of history paid better. Time's up, Nora said. Elena's piece is live. So is the live stream. Mr. Moreau, would you like to comment on the record about the Meridian 7 trial cover-up, or shall we let the documents speak? Victor looked at Maya, really looked, and something in his expression shifted from rage to a cold, assessing pride that made her skin crawl. You always were my best work, he said softly. Even when you were trying to destroy me. I was trying to survive you, Maya answered. There's a difference. She turned and walked out. Nora fell into step beside her. In the elevator, Maya's hands finally started shaking. Nora laced their fingers together and didn't let go until they hit the street, where the afternoon light felt brand new and the harbor wind tasted like a door finally opening. The story detonated across every major outlet by evening. Missing Heiress returns with evidence that could topple pharma giant. Photos of Maya in the red dress walked hand in hand with photos of Nora's earlier investigative work. The Quiet Bean's phone rang until Jen unplugged it. Tourists took selfies outside the cafe. Shadow, unimpressed by fame, continued to demand tuna on schedule. Maya and Nora hid in the blue house with the curtains drawn and Elena Cho on speakerphone for 6 straight hours. Lawyers joined. Then federal investigators. Then a woman from a victim advocacy group who cried when Maya recited the names she had memorized from the files. By midnight, Victor Moreau's lawyers were issuing denials that already sounded like surrender notes. By morning, 2 board members had resigned and a senator was calling for hearings. Maya should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt hollowed out and strangely exposed, like someone had peeled off her skin and left the nerves singing in the open air. "You're allowed to not be okay," Nora said. "Finding her on the porch at 2 a.m., you just burned down a kingdom. Even righteous fires leave smoke." Maya leaned into her. "I keep waiting for the other shoe. My father doesn't lose cleanly. He loses by making everyone else bleed more." As if the universe enjoyed dramatic timing, Maya's phone lit up with a message from an unknown number, different from Julian's old one. "He has a contingency. Check the Seattle server logs. Someone inside Elena's team has been feeding him partial files for weeks." The full dump went out, but so did a forged version that paints you as the one who altered data for revenge. "He's going to say the whistleblower is the criminal. A friend who used to wear a black coat." Maya showed Nora the screen. Julian. Or a trap. Or both. Maya's mind raced. If there's a forged package in circulation, the narrative flips. Disgruntled daughter fabricates evidence. I go from hero to villain in a news cycle. Nora was already opening her laptop. Then we find the forgery, we prove the chain of custody on the real files, and we do it before the morning shows. Elena needs to know now. They woke Elena. Elena cursed in 3 languages and pulled her tech person into a video call. Within an hour they confirmed it. A parallel set of documents had been uploaded to a dump site 30 minutes after the real release, carefully altered to suggest Maya had edited timestamps and invented deaths. The forgery was good. It was also not perfect. Metadata ghosts remained. Nora's original photographs from the Ohio plant matched victim names the forged files tried to erase. Still, the damage landed. By noon, half the internet had split into camps. Justice for the victims versus trust fund girl plays victim. Maya's face was everywhere. So was Nora's. Someone doxed the Blue House address. Someone else started a fundraiser for the trial victims that raised 6 figures in 4 hours. Port Meridian's quiet streets filled with news vans. Maya stood in the kitchen holding a mug of tea gone cold and said the thing she had been terrified to admit since the lighthouse. "I can't be Maya Solace anymore. Not publicly. The ordinary girl is gone. And I don't know who I am without the costume." Nora closed the laptop, crossed the room, and took the mug from her hands. "You're the woman who walked into a penthouse armed with nothing but truth and a camera pin. You're the woman who makes terrible pasta taste like home because you're sitting across from me. You're the woman I love. Names are just doors. We can paint new ones." Maya's eyes filled. "Say that last part again." "I love you," Nora said, steady as tide. "Isabella." "Maya. Whatever you choose tomorrow." "I love the whole messy collection." Maya kissed her then, tea forgotten, news cycle forgotten, the world reduced to the press of mouths and the soft sound Nora made when Maya's fingers slid into her curls. They stumbled to the bedroom and shut the door on history for one stolen afternoon, learning each other with a desperation that felt like prayer. Outside, the Second War began. Julian Voss requested a meeting in the most public place Port Meridian offered, the end of the pier at high noon, surrounded by ice cream carts and screaming seagulls. Maya went with Nora, 2 lawyers on speakerphone, and a body language that said she was done being hunted. Julian looked tired. The silver at his temples had spread. He held a manila envelope like it weighed more than paper should. "I'm not here for your father," he said without preamble. "Not anymore. I copied the clean files the night you left 2 years ago. Insurance. When he ordered the forgery last week, I realized I had spent 20 years protecting a man who would burn his own daughter to keep a stock price warm." He held out the envelope. Original chain of custody logs. Internal emails he thought he deleted. And a recording of him ordering the Seattle forgery. "Use it. Then lose my number." Maya took the envelope. Their fingers didn't touch. "Why no?" Julian's gaze flicked to Nora, then back. "Because you looked happy pouring coffee. And because I have a niece who took Meridian, 7 for a sports injury and still can't feel her left foot. I told myself it was an acceptable risk. I was wrong." Don't make me say it twice. He walked away into the tourist crowd and vanished the way men like him always did, efficiently, without looking back. The recording was devastating. Victor's voice unmistakable, instructing a contractor to adjust the narrative before the real dump finishes seating. Combined with Julian's logs, the forgery collapsed. Elena's team ran a follow-up that night. By morning, Victor Moreau was under federal investigation. The board had voted him out, and the stock was in freefall. Victims' families began receiving settlement offers that actually looked like justice instead of hush money. Maya sat on Nora's couch watching the coverage with Shadow in her lap and felt the strange, quiet grief of winning. The empire that had built her and broken her was crumbling. The ordinary life she had loved was over. What remained was a blank page and a woman who kept refilling her tea without being asked. "I need to go back," Maya said on the third day. "Not to stay. To face the house. The staff who covered for me. The room I left in the middle of the night. If I don't, he'll always own the ending in my head." Nora nodded. "I'll drive. I'll wait in the car or I'll walk in with you." "Your call." "With me," Maya said. "Always with me if you'll have it." "I'll have it." They flew to the city Maya had once called home under names that still felt like costumes. The Moreau estate sat behind iron gates and ancient oaks, beautiful in the way knives can be beautiful. Maya's childhood bedroom had been preserved like a shrine, same white desk, same framed recital programs, same window seat where she had first read about clinical trial ethics and felt the floor drop out of her world. In the study, she found a single letter left on the desk in her father's precise handwriting. "You win this round. Do not mistake that for the end of the game. V." Maya folded the letter, slid it into her pocket, and walked out without looking back. On the front steps, Nora took her hand. Cameras flashed from beyond the gates, press who had somehow learned they were coming. Maya did not hide her face. She lifted their joined hands slightly, a quiet declaration, and kept walking. That night, in a hotel room that overlooked a skyline she no longer belonged to, Maya finally said the words she had been assembling since the pier. "I want to build something. Not an empire. A foundation. For the families. For the people who got hurt because my last name was more important than their lives. And I want to do it with you. Photos and truth and terrible pasta and a cat who judges us. Ordinary on purpose. Extraordinary when it counts." Nora's smile was slow sunrise. "Is that a proposal for a life, or a proposal for a proposal?" Maya laughed, wet-eyed. "It's a start. The rest we can figure out between coffee shifts and court dates." "Deal," Nora whispered, pulling her close. "But I'm still holding you to that skee-ball date." Port Meridian welcomed them home with the same indifferent rain that had first introduced them. The news vans thinned. The cafe regulars went back to ordering lattes and pretending they hadn't watched Maya's face on national television. Jen hugged her too hard on the first shift back and then threatened to quit if Maya ever left without saying goodbye again. The foundation took shape slowly. Maya named it after her mother's middle name, Leora, and refused every offer of Moreau money that came with strings. Donations arrived from strangers, from victim families who had something left to give, from a quiet wire transfer that Julian's niece later admitted sending. Nora's photographs became the face of the campaign, not pity, but dignity. Faces lit by kitchen windows and hospital fluorescents and the stubborn light of people who refused to be erased. They moved in together properly in September. Nora's blue house gained Maya's books, a second toothbrush, and a piano that took 4 friends and a lot of swearing to haul up the porch steps. Maya played for the first time in years on a rainy Sunday while Nora photographed her hands without being asked and without posting a single frame. Some images, they agreed, belonged only to them. The skee-ball date happened on a Thursday that smelled like popcorn and ocean. Maya lost spectacularly. Nora bought her a stuffed whale with tickets she had absolutely hustled for, and they kissed under the boardwalk lights while a teenager yelled at them to get a room. Maya kept the whale on their bed. Shadow tried to murder it twice, and then adopted it as a chin rest. One evening in late October, as the first real cold rolled off the water, Maya found Nora in the darkroom she had built in the spare bedroom. Red light. Trays of chemicals. photographs hanging like quiet ghosts. Nora turned, hands wet, and smiled the soft smile that still undid Maya's ribs. I have something, Nora said. She lifted a print from the rinse tray with tongs. It was Maya behind the counter of the Quiet Bean, mid-laugh, brown hair falling from its bun, ordinary and luminous and entirely herself. Across the bottom, in Nora's handwriting, the woman who pretended until she didn't have to. Maya's throat closed. You're not allowed to make me cry before dinner. I'm a photographer. Emotional damage is in the job description. Nora set the print down and pulled Maya close, careful of the chemicals. Marry me. The words landed soft and absolute. Maya pulled back just enough to see her face. Is this a joke? Because if it is, I'm keeping the whale and the house. Not a joke. Not a bit. I want the whole ridiculous forever. Court dates and coffee shifts and foundation board meetings and you stealing the covers. I want to call you my wife in every name you choose. Marry me, Maya. Marry me, Isabella. Marry me, whoever you wake up as tomorrow. Maya kissed her hard enough to taste salt and darkroom and home. Yes, she said against her mouth. Yes. On one condition. Name it. We do it small. Harbor. Rain if it wants. Jen as witness. Shadow as ring bearer if we can bribe him with tuna. No empire. No press. Just us, ordinary on purpose. Nora laughed, wet-eyed. Deal. I'll even wear something that isn't flannel. Don't make promises you can't keep. They stood in the red light holding each other until the timer beeped and the world politely requested they return to it. Outside, Port Meridian kept being itself, imperfect, damp, full of people with secret histories and second chances. Inside the blue house on Cedar, two women began planning a forever that needed no costume. They married on a Saturday in November when the sky could not decide between storm and silver light. The harbor pavilion was barely big enough for 12 people, Jen and her boyfriend, Elena Cho flying in from Seattle with a bottle of champagne and a grin, two foundation staffers who had become family, Nora's college roommate, and Julian's niece, who arrived late, hugged Maya without speaking and left a small folded note that simply said thank you. Shadow attended in a tiny bow tie and spent the ceremony attempting to eat the flower petals. Maya wore a simple ivory dress that had never seen a red carpet. Nora wore black trousers, a white shirt, and the softest expression Maya had ever captured without a camera. They wrote their own vows on the backs of old coffee shop receipts because some traditions deserved to stay ordinary. Maya went first, voice steady until it wasn't. I spent years believing love was a risk I couldn't afford. Then you walked into my cafe smelling like rain and asked for hope with oat milk. You saw every version of me, the quiet girl, the runaway, the heiress, the woman still learning how to stay, and you chose all of them. I promised to stop running. I promised to tell you the hard things before they become secrets. I promised to make terrible pasta and better coffee and to love you in every name I ever wear. You are my ordinary miracle. You were my extraordinary home. Nora's turn came with tears she didn't bother hiding. I used to think the best photographs were the ones that revealed what people hid. Then I met you and learned the best life is the one where someone lets you put the camera down. Maya Solace. Isabella Moreau. My almost wife for approximately 4 more minutes. I promise to fight beside you, to laugh with you, to keep the darkroom door open and the porch light fixed. I promise that when the world gets loud, I will be the quiet place you come home to. I love you. I choose you. Every rainy Tuesday. Every impossible Friday. Forever. They kissed while the first drops of rain began to fall, soft and unapologetic, as if Port Meridian itself were offering a blessing in the only language it knew. Jen hooped. Elena cried. Shadow escaped his bow tie and claimed a chair like a tiny, furry officiant approving the union. The reception was pizza on the pier and a single dance under a string of lights Nora had hung that morning. No press. No empire. Just the sound of water against wood and the feeling of a future that finally fit. That night, back in the blue house, Maya stood at the bedroom window watching the storm settle into a steady hush. Nora came up behind her, arms sliding around her waist, chin on her shoulder. Any regrets? Nora murmured. Maya covered Nora's hands with her own. Only that I waited so long to be found. You weren't found, Nora said. You walked out of the dark on purpose. I just happened to be holding a light. Maya turned in her arms. Then keep holding it. I'm done pretending to be anything smaller than this. They fell into bed tangled and laughing, and then quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists when two people have stopped performing for the world and started simply existing for each other. Outside, the rain wrote its endless story on the roof. Inside, a new one began, page one of a life with no costumes required. 1 year after the harbor vows, the quiet beans still smelled like burnt sugar and vanilla syrup. Maya no longer worked every shift, but she kept Thursday evenings because some rituals deserved to survive fame, foundations, and federal trials. Regulars still called her the quiet one, though now they said it with a wink, as if they were in on a beautiful joke. Nora's latest exhibition, Faces of Meridian, 7 survivors, shot with unflinching tenderness, had opened in 3 cities. Half the proceeds fed the Leora Foundation. The other half, Nora joked, paid for Shadow's increasingly luxurious tuna habit and the piano's second tuning. Victor Moreau's trial was still grinding through the courts. He would likely die before serving full time, the lawyer said. Maya did not attend every hearing. She sent statements. She sat with families. She refused to let his shadow become the shape of her days. On the hardest mornings, Nora made coffee strong enough to raise the dead and reminded her that survival was not the same as silence, and silence was no longer required. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Nora walked into the cafe at 7:42 p.m., soaked from a theatrical autumn rain, and ordered the darkest coffee on the menu plus a side of hope with oat milk. Maya laughed so hard she nearly dropped the cup. They closed early. They walked to the pier. They stood where the lighthouse beams swept the water in slow, reliable arcs. Any new secrets? Nora asked, bumping her shoulder. Only one, Maya said. She pulled a small folded paper from her coat, an ultrasound print, early, private, a decision they had made together after months of talking about the kind of family they wanted to build on purpose. In about 7 months, we're going to need a bigger house. Or at least a second bow tie for Shadow. Nora stared at the image, then at Maya, then laughed and cried in the same breath, lifting her off the ground while the rain blessed them again. Ordinary on purpose, she whispered into Maya's hair. Extraordinary every single day. Maya held her wife and the future, the life no longer borrowed, hidden or small. She had pretended to be ordinary until her real identity was revealed. What the world never fully understood was this. The real identity was never the heiress. It was the woman who chose love over empire, truth over safety, and a blue house on Cedar Street over every gilded cage she had ever been offered. And she was only getting started. Years later, interviewers asked Maya what the hardest part had been. She never mentioned cameras or courtrooms. She always gave the same answer. Believing I deserved a quiet life after a loud truth. Nora taught me I did. She still does. Some nights Maya still wiped the counter at the Quiet Bean even when it was clean. Nora would appear with 2 cups. They would lock up, walk home under the harbor lights, and step into a house that smelled like cedar, coffee, and peace. She had worn ordinary like armor until love made armor unnecessary. Her real identity was a life she chose, openly, fiercely, forever in the rain.